Murphy's Comedy Club, episode 156. I am Rod Murphy, and this is Growing Up Poor in Irish Boston, a series of my 1950s era Irish Boston songs, history, jokes, and stories. And never let the truth interfere with a good story. Paddy Murphy solution number one. It is only when a mosquito lands on your testicles that you realize there's always another way to solve problems without using violence. Paddy Murphy's friend, Mutton Burke, died, and St. Peter was looking at Mutton's record and said, I see some really good things that you did in your life, but there are some bad things too. Do you have anything that might sway my decision in your favor? Mutton then said, there was this one time when I was driving across the desert and I saw a bunch of motorcycles parked on the side of the road. All the riders, dressed in leather vests, were in a circle, pushing a young girl back and forth across the middle of the circle. So I stopped and grabbed a tire iron from my trunk and went to confront the riders. One guy was the obvious leader, so I walked up to him and grabbed the chain connected to his pierced nipples and ripped it off. I said, now that I have your attention, I want you and your friends to get back on your motorcycles and leave that girl alone. St. Peter said, wow, that's really courageous and impressive. When did this happen? Mutton said, about 5 minutes ago. Okay, Billy O'Banion walks into Murphy's Pub just off Dont Square in Cork City with an octopus under his arm. He orders a pint for himself and a John Jameson for the octopus. The publican, Murphy, says, sorry for interrupting your drink, mate, but what's with the octopus? O'Banion says, him? Oh, he likes whiskey. Murphy says, no, I mean, why is he with you? Is he a pet or something? O'Banion shakes his head. No, he's a famous musician. Haven't you heard of Oswald the Octopus? Murphy stares at him. What? The Oswald the Octopus? Off the telly? O'Banion nods. A red-faced regular pub crawler comes over and asks, what's so special about it? O'Banion said, he's amazing. He can play any instrument perfectly, anyone at all, right off the bat, even if he's never seen it before. The regular laughs in disbelief. Rubbish, he says. I don't believe a word of it. O'Banion finishes his pint. Then he says, bet you he can, he says softly. A pint for me and a John Jameson for him, if he can. If he cannot, then I'll stand you for the drinks for the rest of the night. At this, everyone in the bar rushes off to find an instrument. That night, Oswald gives a virtuoso performance. Every instrument that's put on the bar, he plays expertly. Trumpet, saxophone, guitar, violin, oboe, whatever it is, Oswald plays it. Eventually, some guy comes in with a set of bagpipes and drops them next to the octopus. Oswald eyes it for a moment. The pub's occupants watch. With bated breath, Oswald moves closer and suddenly he leaps on it and starts wrestling noisily with it all across the bar and onto the floor. The regular smirks and tells O'Banion that he's won the bet. The regular points at where Oswald is humping at the set of bagpipes. Hang on, O'Banion says. Give him a couple of minutes. Once he realizes he can't make love to it, he'll play it. So, Paddy Murphy's cousin, Declan O'Hara, is known for having a drinking problem. There is a story about O'Hara at a local Cork pub. He walks in and orders a John Jameson and buys one for the publican. 2. The publican pours the drinks and asks O'Hara to pay. Declan says drunkenly, I don't have any money. The publican gets really angry, takes O'Hara outside and beats him up. A little while later, O'Hara limps back in and says loudly, Give the house a drink, all except you. He points at the publican. O'Hara continues, You get nasty when you drink. Paddy Murphy's friend Jack Minogue is transporting a coffin when his pickup breaks down. He pulls over, and after messing about with the engine, trying to fix it, he gets covered with oil and grease. He calls for a mechanic. The mechanic says he needs an hour to get there. So Minogue calls his boss to let him know what's going on. His boss tells him the funeral is about to start, so hurry up and carry the coffin if it's necessary. Upset but recognizing the fact that he has no choice, Minogue picks up the coffin and starts lugging it up the road on his shoulder. A cop sees him and approaches, asking, What are you doing with that coffin? Where are you going? By this time, Minogue is frustrated, tired, and pissed off. So he responds, I didn't like the grave they buried me in, so I'm going to find another. Paddy Murphy was outside watering the lawn one day without a shirt on when the Homeowners Association patrol stopped and approached him. Are you the homeowner here? They asked. Murphy says, Yes, this is my home. Why? The HOA patrol said you should know that you can't be outside without your shirt. That's a violation of the rules. Why, what would the neighbors say if your wife was out here dressed like that? Paddy says, They'd say I married her for her money. A woman and a man collide head-on in their cars in South Boston. The impact is so great that both vehicles are completely destroyed. But incredibly, neither driver is injured. After getting out of their respective cars, the woman says, But look at what's become of our cars. And miraculously, we don't have a single scratch. This must be a sign from God for us to get to know each other, to become friends for the rest of our days. The man, captivated by the woman's beauty, replies, Oh, yes, I completely agree with you. This is a sign from God. The woman continues, Look, another miracle. My car is completely destroyed, but the bottle of wine didn't break. Surely God wants us to drink it and celebrate our good fortune. The man, completely in agreement, uncorks the bottle, makes a toast, and drinks half of it. Then he hands it back to her so she can drink too. The woman takes the bottle, puts the cap back on it. The man, puzzled, asks her, Aren't you going to have a drink? The woman replies, No, I prefer to wait for the Boston PD to come and give us the breathalyzer test. The moral of the story? Women are and always will be more calculating than beautiful, and trusting men are and always will be their victims. A very old couple are being interviewed on the telly as they have been married for 45 years. The interviewer says, 60 years of marriage, 45 years of marriage. Have you ever considered divorce? The old wife says, Oh, heavens, no, never. But murder? Yes. The interviewer says, What? I beg your pardon? What did you say? The old wife says, Never a divorce, but I consider murder every day. Liam Murphy, a cousin of Paddy Murphy and an engineer, dies, and he goes to heaven. Arriving at the pearly gates, Liam finds them closed. Banging on the door, eventually St. Peter arrives. St. Peter looks questioningly at the new arrival. When asked what he wanted, St. Peter informs Liam that he must be at the wrong place, as all new arrivals have been accounted for. Pointing out the elevator behind him, he closed the door, and Liam sullenly descends. Arriving in hell, as soon as the elevator door opens, Liam is greeted by a blast of heat, the smell of brimstone and sulfur. Mystified at this turn of events, he's unable to decipher what it was in his previous existence that would have sentenced him to eternity here. Stepping out, he sees that the path leads across a deep chasm. Lava flows in the bottom, making the crossing dangerous, if not lethal. But as he starts down the path, he realizes the rock is rich in iron ore. Not yet understanding the pecking order, Liam sees a few residents breaking rocks. So he calls them over, instructing them to separate the iron ore. Soon enough, he's got iron being smelted, and seeing other rocks that match, soon has steel being made. Within days of his arrival, Liam's got a factory going, steel girders, and a bridge across the chasm, and begins to work on air conditioning. So Satan is in his office, hasn't been paying too much attention, until he pauses one afternoon and looks out. Seeing the bridge, which had never been there before, and the factory, and his minions toiling for this engineer, he calls down to the head demon to find out what's going on. The demon tells Satan that he has been unable to stop it. This engineer is wreaking havoc on hell. Satan starts thinking about this and recognizing that for the first time in a dozen millenniums that there is some improvements happening in hell. Suddenly, the phone rings. Looking at the caller ID, he sees that it's heaven. "What can I do for you, St. Peter?" Satan asks. "Yeah," St. Peter says. "Remember that new arrival that you had the other day that you couldn't find the papers on? The engineer? Yeah. Sure I do," says Satan. "We didn't have any paperwork for him, but he's here anyway. Why?" St. Peter says, "Well, it turns out he's one of ours. We had a little paperwork mix-up. His papers got stuck in the wrong folder. So you got to send them back." Satan thinks about it for about a split second. It answers, "No." St. Peter is flabbergasted. He's never had a conflict with the devil before. He says, "No? What do you mean, no? He's ours. You know the rules. You got to send him back." Satan thinks about it just another moment and answers, "I said no. We're going to keep this guy. He's made more improvements around here in a couple of days than I've seen in several millennia. He's here, so I'm going to keep him." St. Peter says, "Oh, come on. You know it doesn't work that way. If you don't send him back, we'll have to sue you in heavenly court." Satan then knowingly smiles broadly and says, with a huge guffaw, "And where do you think you're going to find a lawyer?" This is Rod Murphy. Thank you for viewing or listening to my YouTube and podcast episodes. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed them, please hit the subscribe button. It does not cost you anything, and it helps me to grow my audience. Again, my thanks.